This is the BMW M2, codename F87. It's powered by a 6-cylinder inline single turbo twin scroll, and it's good for a 0 to 100 km acceleration of 4.3 seconds. In this review, I'm going to be walking you through some of the quirks and features of the car and give you an in-depth review, and we'll also go for a drive. So let's go have a look. So the M2 is based off the 2 Series existing car, which is a small coupe. But what they've done is they've added the M treatment, which is they've added in a huge, powerful engine, and they've added a whole lot of internals to make this a supercar in a small body, which is harking back to BMW's original days. Now the first thing you'll see is this is no ordinary 2 Series sedan, and you can see that straight away from the huge fenders down here, which really stick out. This is a wide body kit. And you've got these huge brake and calipers. We've got the M Sport calipers down here and the M wheels as well. From the back, we've got this really aggressive body kit, and we've got the 4 quad pipe exhaust down here, which makes an amazing noise. And we've got this diffuser down here, which adds in a really aggressive look, and this rear end sticking out far wider than in the original 2 Series. We've got these M2 grills on the side here, which connect into this long body panel styling across all the way to the end of the car. Down the front here, we've got really aggressive styling here, which is different to the 2 Series. We've got really large functional vents here, 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 and here, and you can see the M2 logo over here. So for the engine, we've got an amazing engine in here. So it's 3-litre inline 6-cylinder single twin scroll turbo. It produces 272 kilowatts of power at 6,500 RPM and torque of 465 Newton meters at a broad range of 1,400 to 5,500 RPM. That leaves it good for acceleration for 4.3 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour with the DCT, and slightly slower by a tenth of a second in the manual. The fuel's 98 only, and it has a consumption reported of 7.9 litres per 100 kilometres and 6.4 urban or 10.5 highway. Okay, so again, the interior is the same interior from the 2 Series, but they've added their own BMW M2 twist. You'll see that there's blue stitching everywhere on the seats, on the floor mats, on this little armrest here, on here. On the seats, floor mats, it's everywhere. Back seats, there's blue stitching everywhere. On the steering wheel, you've got M2 stitching here as well. So there's a lot of stitching to know that this is no ordinary BMW. There's also carbon fiber everywhere. We've got carbon fiber here, over here, on the door handles, and everywhere else. Again, other than that, there's not really much difference between this and the ordinary 2 Series on the interior. Because when you're buying an M Series, you're buying it for the engine and how it drives. You're not buying it for the interior. So overall, the interior is relatively bland, aside from the few differences from the ordinary 2 Series. So the back seats are actually relatively spacious considering how small the car is. You just push this button here, just gripping in the back. You can close it back up like this. So there's plenty of legroom at the front still, and I can sit up all the way. My head's only just touching the roof. I've got a lot of legroom. It's quite spacious. There's actually 2 seats in here, so it's not a 3-seater back seat. They do actually have this little plastic thing in the middle where you can put cup holders and things like that. There's rear climate control in the vent, and there's some more blue stitching and leather over here. But overall, quite a comfortable back seat. You've got light control here. You've got the M seat stitching over here. You've got adjustable headrests over here. And these seats actually fold down as well. So if you want to increase your boot room, which is already quite large, you can fit quite large things. So practicality is actually quite good in this car. Now let's take this for a drive. So first of all, let's talk about the engine. So I mentioned before, it's a powerful engine. It's 3-liter, 6-cylinder inline with turbo. And it's super fast. Now, going at low speeds, it's quite smooth as well. You can hear the engine exhaust note as well, being pumped through the sound system. So not all of this is real. You can hear the real exhaust note through the sunroof and through the windows, but when it's closed, it does actually pump a little bit through. And a lot of people complain about that, but I kind of like it because it helps you kind of have a sense of feel for the engine, how it's revving, etc. So it's quite smooth at low speeds. It does feel quite heavy. It's a heavy engine. I used to have a 228i, which was a 4-cylinder, and it was definitely a much lighter engine. And because it's in the front of the car, it does change the balance of the car as well. Now, it's got a few different sport modes in here, which actually do change the sound of the exhaust. So right now we're in comfort, so the suspension is relatively smooth, and the shift response and the throttle response is a little bit muted. It's still quite strong, and the engine note's still quite... Alright, now we're in sport mode, which is, you can already hear that the engine note's a lot louder, and the throttle response is a lot quicker as well. It's starting to feel like a real sports car all of a sudden. Now, let's just try and find a straight road so we can actually test out Sport Plus as well. The brakes are very strong and responsive. You saw how big the disc brakes were with the M Sport brakes as well. Now, I've spoken with people who've driven the M2 and the M235i, and they've said the M235i brakes are the main letdown. So even though the engine's pretty much the same engine as what's in this car, except with some tunes in the M2, the brakes in the M235 are so much weaker. Alright, now we're getting onto a main road. We'll shift it into Sports Plus. Alright, we're going to shift it up into Sport Plus mode so you can feel the difference. So straight away, it's so much louder. You can hear that engine exhaust note being pumped through the speakers. Now it's even better when you can hear the outside noise. It's going to be hard to listen in the video with the wind noise, but let's give it a go anyway. You can hear that raucous noise coming through the window. Now I definitely recommend getting the sunroof if you're going to buy an M2, so you can hear more of that engine exhaust noise. And here's a tunnel, we're going to hear that downshift noise come through. It's got all these awesome burbles that come out of the engine. There's another one right there. When you downshift, sounds amazing. My only criticism of Sport Plus mode is the DCT transmission, which we haven't talked about yet. Even though it's super quick for race cars, when you are driving at low speed, it is a little bit choppy. So right now I'm in Sport Plus, and I'm in a bit of traffic, and you can feel the car going up and down as the engine and the transmission try to figure out what's the right gear to use. So it is a little bit choppy. And I have heard the DCT is a little bit less reliable than the torque converter transmission as well. So I'll just put the sunroof up so we can hear a little bit better what I'm saying. Okay, so that's the engine, and the transmission I'd say is quite good as well, except for that choppiness. The handling of the car is excellent. So we've got this M Sport steering wheel over here, but just a little bit of turning is instant response on the road. So excellent handling. The steering wheel is a little bit heavy. If you do like that, and it is a sports car, so generally they are heavy, but it is quite good, and the steering response does change depending on what. The shifting is so quick when you're going at speeds. My only criticism about the suspension is it is a little bit rough. There's no adjustable suspension in this car. It's probably one of the only main improvements that I'd request from this car. Because sometimes you're driving around town and you don't want it to be in a race car mode, you just want to have a soft, smooth ride suspension, and you just can't get this in this car. So it's fine if you're driving on nice, smooth roads, but if you're going to be driving on not so strong roads, it will be an issue. It's just so fast to drive this car. Such a good car, I love it. And it is rear wheel drive as well, so if you do want to swing the tail out a little bit when you're driving, that's also a possibility. Personally, I'd prefer this to be an all-wheel drive car. That's probably my only other second request. I don't do a lot of drifting, but I do notice that when you're at the lights and you want to get off really fast, an all-wheel drive car would be the ideal situation, and 0 to 100 km speed would be so much faster if it was all-wheel drive. So what do I think about the M2 in general? So from the engine, it's an excellent engine. It's got awesome acceleration stats, better than most cars on the market today. It's almost in supercar territory. It's got awesome power and torque. It's really excellent. Rear-wheel drive as well makes it really fun to drive. So I'll rate the engine 9 out of 10. The transmission is a dual clutch, 7-speed automatic. Shifts really fast. Really good racing car technology in there, but at slower speeds it is quite clunky. So I rate this 8 out of 10. For the design, I think it's amazing. I think they've done an excellent job. I think it's the best looking M car on the market. It's beautiful. This color is amazing as well. I rate the design 10 out of 10. For the handling, it's got a great package, very small car, powerful engine. It's a whole foot shorter than the 3 Series, so I think I rate the car 9 out of 10. I think it's one of the best cars on the market today. It's actually the same engine of the M235i, but they've just tuned it and they've added in parts from the... You fucking idiot!